Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for being on. I don't know if Sherry's on here. Maybe not. I think Sherry might have told me she wasn't going to be on here. So, hey, everybody, thank you. I'm Kasey. I'm once again back to you, talk to you about our suicide prevention broadcast that's called Talk About It Thursdays. So, I want to talk to you guys about suicide prevention. It is so very important. Next month in September is Suicide Prevention and Awareness month, the whole month. It's about suicide prevention. Hey, Stephen, how are you? How are you doing? It's about suicide prevention and awareness, and it's so important. Every 48 seconds, someone dies from suicide in our world. 135 roughly every day in the United States, and over 1 million a year. It's so important to talk about it because even if you have not directly felt the effects of suicide, you will know someone who has. If not you, a friend, a neighbor, a relative, somebody in some way, shape, or form knows something about suicide. It is so important. So we are really gearing up this year. Last year we had a suicide prevention broadcast at the end of the month. We will have the same thing this year. We will be making posts. We will be having video and conference video, guest speakers on talking throughout the month. Throughout it, and we will let you guys know what we're doing for suicide prevention. We'll be asking you to make posts. We'll be doing posting. We will be having in October our suicide prevention and awareness rally, but it will be virtual this year because of the pandemic. We're not going to do it out in the public in the park like we have the past 2 years. We're going to do it online. So we welcome you guys to come in and join us in that. Hey, Shayi. Hey, Aisha. Thank you guys for coming back the second time. It took me a little time to get back on because my mom had dropped by. But thank you guys for coming in. So it's really important to talk about suicide prevention and know the suicide signs. Mental health is really important. Mental health is so important. If you don't have strong mental health, you can't accomplish much. I mean, you can be highly attacked and under so much attack that you get into that deep-seated thought of taking your life. It is not an option. It never has been an option and never will be an option. And we need to stop talking about it as if it is. People lose their mindset to stay and fight because of the attacks. Sometimes it's not just people, because we think, oh, it's only those people who have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, manic depressive disorder, or some types of anxiety, panic, or some sort of chronic depression that they take their life. That's not true. It is also people who have situational problems. I call that the perfect storm of pain. When you lose your job, or you're going under, or you're having a relationship problem, or your physical body is under attack, and all these bad things are working all together in one perfect storm. Those are what I call suicidal situational suicides, where the things in your life are so overwhelming that you think, I must leave. This is not the act of what you should do, because the devil is in your thoughts trying to pull your mind down. But it's so important that you get help. This is why we are proponents and advocates for mental health therapy and mental health training, so you understand about good mental health versus bad mental health and what you can do to make the changes possible to get help. Let's talk about some of the signs in suicide prevention. Some of the signs in suicide prevention and knowing when someone's suicidal is for them to always say, the world would, oh gosh, I'm having, I thought I had resolved. Oh gosh, my light almost down. The dog down. Hold on a second. The dog almost over. Oh my gosh, I can't. I am so going to be happy when my right. But praise God for where I am and where I'm going. Okay, so a lot of times you don't understand people who are suicidal. They will say like, the world is better off without me. I shouldn't be here. I'm just a burden. Those are things they say. They also sometimes don't act just sad. Sometimes they act aggressive or angry. That's another sign. Anybody who's going from being deeply, deeply depressed to all of a sudden euphoric and happy and excited, usually that's a sign that they have talked through something in their mind and they have come to the conclusion that they are going to leave this earth, and they're happy about it. So they've resolved from being deeply sad to being excited all of a sudden. That's not what it is. People who are giving away their prized possessions. I don't want this. Let me give this to you. I want you to have this as a remembrance of me. Those types of things. People who are speaking and talking about death constantly, in many ways, shape, or forms. a neighbor that you knew did it 5 years ago. Well, awesome, not awesome that you that they did that, but I'm glad to know that you have a connection with something close to that. A lot of us do. I have to say, for me, there was a young man, two young men when I was in the youth department who have since that time years ago taken their life. And so those are two people that I know, that were teenagers at the time when I was their youth leader. And so again, so I know people too. And I think when you know people, it makes it more highly personal to you, and it makes it more prevalent in your life so you can see it in others' lives. So that's really important. And so we need to get the word out to stop suicide in this general area. Shai knows we've had two pastors, even just in our like maybe 25-30 mile radius of each other in the past 2 years consecutively. We had Pastor Andrew Stokline, who took his life at Inland Hills Church in 2018. And I think in 2019, we had another pastor at Harvest Church take his life. What's his name? Brian. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I have to remember. And so both pastors, one was a mental prophet, both had gone undergone therapy. Both were under the care of a doctor. People in their life knew what they were struggling with, and one of them had a foundation where he was becoming an advocate for suicide prevention. Yeah, it is jarring when we hear about people who have taken their life, but it's also a wake-up call for many of us. People think if you ask people if they're thinking about suicide that it makes them want to commit suicide. That's not true. It opens up the conversation, and that's why we say talk about it. The more people talk about it, the less people are doing it in the dark. People don't usually openly take their life. They usually do it in a private way, off to the side in the darkness, and sometimes you'll see people do it publicly. But in order for a person to even put themselves out there like that, they've gone into a really deep low place in their thought life. But it's very important and powerful that people of Christianity come together and stop denouncing or shaming people for having mental attacks. If I have a broken foot, I need to go to a doctor. If I have a broken thought life, I need to go to a therapist. It's that simple. Someone who can help you talk through it, get through it. People, I totally believe in the laying on of hands and complete and total healing in prayer. But some people have a deep-seated, deep-rooted generational attack that takes more than a simple prayer. Some people can get out of it through a prayer, because I myself have had a suicidal thought twice in my life, and they were passing thoughts. They didn't remain in me. God was able to pull me out of those thoughts, and so they didn't turn into action. But there are people who have thoughts about suicide all the time, all day, every day. And if that's how you are, you're being stalked and tormented. These thoughts, you need to have a process them. So having medication, therapy, having a therapist, very helpful. Right now, therapists are very strong coming up. We have Ayana Therapy, which is a group that you can go to and get information for the BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color. Lots of therapists who are strictly towards that cultural divide that help with that. Then we have therapists at your doctor. We have child therapists, male therapists, women therapists, all types of therapists, whatever fits you or suits you, people who can help you. And there's prayer. I believe you're more important than anything that you're going through. And so you have to get your help, however that is. If that's prayer, if that's therapy, if that's medication, or a combination of all or some of that. However that is to help you. A Christian therapist will be great. Yes, there are a lot of Christian therapists. You can go and find Christian-based therapists. I believe in Christian-based therapy because I don't want any type of therapy that will rival God's concepts. But a lot of people have other types of therapy, and I think it's very important that you do that. Mental health is so important. And what we're going to talk about today is that mental health through the pandemic. We're going to talk about mental health through the pandemic. So the pandemic has been taking a toll on so many of us in so many ways. Even the strongest of us have been challenged because of all the stuff that's going on around us. We've got elections, protests, we've got looting and fighting on television, we've got people abstaining from doing sports, people held from college, people stopping college sports, people stopping jobs, people who have job losses, students are at home learning, teachers are at home learning, teachers are back in school, essential workers, people are at home online, people's jobs have been furloughed and ended. So many things that we've been going through in our culture, in our country, and personally. And they all have worked against our mental We need to do a matter after this. Oh, oh, we're having a connection. So I don't know if my Wi-Fi in here continue to hear me, but I'm just going to keep talking. There have been another, the CDC reports in July a spike in suicides this year. Suicides went up according to the Center for Disease Control, the Center for Disease Control. There have been another